I never thought an empty bed could feel heavier than a body lying beside you. But mine did. It became my home, my punishment, my reminder that I was living. Yet no one was living with me. This is my story. A story of a girl who slept alone, even when she wasn't alone. Before you judge me, before you pity me, just listen. Because the night I realized the truth was the night everything I loved shattered. People say a bed is the safest place in the world. A place where you rest, dream, heal, breathe. But mine was different. Mine was cold, silent. A battlefield where I cried more than I slept. I grew up in a house where emotions were never tucked in, where hugs were rare, and silence was louder than love. My mother was a shadow. Always busy, always tired, always somewhere else. My father wasn't a father. Not to me, at least. He slept in the same house, but never in the same world. I remember being 6 years old, curled in the corner of the bed, listening to the sound of their arguments echo down the hallway. But what hurt wasn't the shouting. It was their silence afterward. The silence that meant I didn't matter enough for either of them to check if I was okay. Every night, I'd stretch my hand across the empty side of the bed, hoping someone, anyone, would hold it. But no one ever did. That empty space slowly became my comfort, my normal, my home. I was 11 years old when I understood what loneliness really meant. It was raining that night, the kind of rain that feels like the sky is breaking. Thunder rattled the windows, and I remember whispering to myself, "Don't be scared, you're strong." But I wasn't. A loud crash came from the living room. Then a door slammed. Then silence. I ran out, bare feet on the cold, wet floor. And there was my mother, knees on the ground, hands shaking, crying into her palms. I'd never seen her cry before. Not once. I ran to her, and she pushed me away. Not because she was angry, because she was broken. She whispered, "He's gone, he left, he's not coming back." The door was still swinging from how hard he slammed it. My father left that night, and he didn't even say goodbye. My mother kept crying, and I stood there, unwanted in the middle of two disasters. I walked back to my room, closed the door, and for the first time in my life, I realized no one was coming to save me. That night, I crawled into the empty side of the bed, the side I always pretended someone would fill. But the pillow stayed cold, and so did I. When kids at school asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, I always answered the same thing. I want to be someone who isn't alone. Not a doctor, not a teacher, not a singer, just someone who mattered enough for someone to stay. My classmates laughed. My teachers smiled like it was cute, but I wasn't joking. Every night, my bedroom became my universe. Not because it was beautiful, but because it was the only space where I could hide my emotions without judgment. I'd sit on my bed with the lights off and imagine a happier version of myself, one who didn't carry invisible bruises, one who didn't cry herself to sleep, one who didn't pretend she was okay, because pretending takes more energy than suffering. And I was exhausted. The bed that should have held dreams only held my secrets. Even as a teenager, I kept my door locked, afraid someone would walk in and see the truth in my eyes. People say loneliness ages you faster. They're right. By 16, I felt 40, and the empty bed beside me felt like the shape of my future. I met him in college. He smiled like he didn't know what sadness was. He laughed like life never punched him the way it punched me. He had a lightness I wanted to borrow. He told me I had beautiful eyes, but I think he liked them because they were always a little sad. He called it depth, but it was trauma. We started spending nights together, and for the first time in my life, someone slept next to me. But even with him in my bed, I still felt alone. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, waiting for him to breathe differently, waiting for him to leave, just like everyone else. He'd touch my hand gently, and I'd pull away, not because I didn't want him, but because I didn't trust happiness. Happiness is fragile, like a balloon tied to a storm. I was the storm, and he could feel it. One night, he said something I'll never forget. "Why are you always on the edge of leaving me, even when you're lying next to me?" I didn't have an answer, because the truth was simple. I didn't know how to let someone love me. It happened the same way it happened with my father. A silence. A door. A heartbreak. He stood by the doorway, hands shaking, eyes tired. I can't love someone who has already convinced herself she's unlovable. I felt the world collapse around me, and once again, the bed that had finally known warmth became empty, cold, quiet, familiar. I lay there the whole night, awake, staring at the place where he used to sleep. And I realized something. It wasn't just that people left me. I pushed them away first. After he left, I didn't cry. People expect tears during heartbreak. They expect screams, anger, something dramatic. But I just sat there, silent, still, like my body had accepted defeat. Long before he walked away. Took me 2 days to even touch the other side of the bed again. Not because I was sad, but because I was used to it being empty. That's what loneliness does. It becomes a habit, a routine, a familiar ache you stop questioning. I woke up alone, ate alone, studied alone, went to sleep alone. Every night, I slid into the same cold corner of the mattress, curled up like I was protecting myself from the world. And honestly, I was. The empty bed became a shield, a space where no one could hurt me, because no one could leave. Staying alone felt safer than being abandoned. Safe, but slowly killing me. Life moved forward, even when I didn't. I graduated, got a job, moved to a small apartment, with beige walls, and not a single trace of color. People who visited said it looked minimalist. But it wasn't. It was empty, just like me. Every night when I came home, my bed was the first thing I saw, made perfectly untouched, like a display in a furniture store. It had no wrinkles, because no one lived in it. I remember sitting at the edge one night, feeling the fabric beneath my hands, and realizing I hadn't been held in years. Not hugged, not kissed, not touched with love. I'd become a ghost, living inside a body, the kind of woman who people say looks strong, only because she never learned to ask for help. I was proud of my independence, but deep down, I knew it wasn't strength, it was survival. The empty bed was my trophy, proof that I'd learned to endure life, without expecting warmth, but I still longed for it. Quietly, desperately, silently. It happened on a Tuesday, a normal day, a boring day, a day that should have blended in with all the others. But that night, something felt different. My apartment was strangely silent, as if the air itself was waiting for something to happen. I walked into my bedroom and froze. The blankets, the ones I always left perfectly straight, were wrinkled, shifted, disturbed, like someone had been lying there. For a moment, my heart stopped, my breath vanished, my skin prickled. I whispered to myself, "It's nothing, you're imagining it, right?" But I wasn't, because beside the pillow, there was something else. A single tiny indentation, the shape of a head. Someone had been on my bed. Recently, the room suddenly felt smaller, colder, darker. I backed away slowly, my fingers trembling. Was someone still inside? Had someone broken in? Had they been watching me sleep? I checked every corner, the closet, the bathroom, under the bed. Nothing, but the indentation was still there, as if the room itself was telling me a story I didn't want to hear. I pressed my hand into the spot. It was warm. Someone had been there, minutes before I entered. For weeks, I didn't sleep properly. Every sound felt suspicious. Every flicker of light felt like a signal. Every misplaced object felt like a message. I started locking my doors twice, sometimes 3 times. I pushed a chair under the handle. I blocked the windows. but the feeling remained, like someone was watching, waiting, hiding in the corners of my life. I told myself I was paranoid, overworked, overthinking, but deep down, I knew something was wrong, because the signs kept coming. A glass left out, that I didn't remember using. A light switched off, that I never switched on. The faint smell of someone else's perfume, not mine, lingering in the hall. The bed indentation kept reappearing. Different spots, different angles, different weight. Some nights, it looked like someone sat on the edge of my bed. Other nights, like someone lay beside me, facing me. The worst one, the night I saw the blanket folded back, as if someone had slipped out, moments before I woke. And every time I checked the apartment, no one, nothing, just the echo of someone who shouldn't exist. Someone who knew my space better than I did. Someone who moved silently, but left traces, as if they wanted me to notice. I was afraid, but I didn't know of what. A stranger? A stalker? A ghost? Or my own loneliness taking shape? It was past midnight. Rain hammered the windows. My room flickered with the soft glow of a single lamp. I lay still, pretending to sleep, because the indentation was back again. Right beside me, I could feel the mattress dip. Just barely, but enough to know someone was there, breathing quietly, slowly, as if matching my breath. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it would wake him. I waited. Seconds felt like hours. And then, a cold whisper of air brushed my cheek, like someone exhaled, right next to my skin. I shot up, turned on the lamp, eyes wild, and that was when I saw him. A silhouette, brief, standing in the corner near the closet, tall, still, watching. My breath caught, my scream stuck in my throat, but when I blinked, he vanished. Just a shadow, a shape, a memory left in the air. But the blanket beside me was still indented, still warm, still wrong. That night, every part of me changed, because loneliness was no longer just inside my head. It was standing inside my bedroom, inside my life, inside the empty bed that had become my home. After that night, I couldn't stay in the apartment anymore. Every corner felt contaminated, infected by the presence of someone or something that should not have been there. Even in daylight, I felt watched. Shadows behind curtains, soft shifts in the air, a sense that someone knew my patterns. When I slept, when I woke, when I turned away, I stopped using the bedroom, moved to the living room, kept the lights on, barely slept at all. But the truth was cruel. The fear wasn't living in the apartment. It was living in me. Anything could trigger it. A sudden knock, a flickering light, my own reflection looking too tired to be me. I had spent my entire life alone, and suddenly, I couldn't handle the idea of being alone at all. Loneliness had followed me like a shadow, and now, my mind had given that shadow a shape, a silhouette, a presence, a man who didn't exist, or maybe existed only because I needed him to. One evening, I gathered every ounce of courage in my body and decided to confront everything. I walked into the bedroom, the place I feared most, and sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress dipped slightly under my weight. Nothing unusual, nothing supernatural, just me. I stayed there for hours, and nothing happened. No shadow, no figure, no whisper on my cheek. And that's when it hit me. The man I saw, the one who watched me, the one who slept beside me, he was never real. He was the shape of my loneliness, manifested by exhaustion, fear, and years of sleeping beside an empty space. I didn't see a ghost. I saw the absence of love, pretending to be something else. A hallucination, born from decades of silence, and an unshared bed. My mind didn't want the truth. It wanted company, and so it created one. Healing didn't start with therapy, or meditation, or any spiritual ritual. It started with a pillow. One night, instead of avoiding the bedroom, I placed a second pillow on the empty side of the bed, and for the first time in years, I didn't curl up into the corner. I lay in the middle. The whole bed. My bed. There was no cold indentation, no phantom breath, no imaginary figure. Just space. Space I had been afraid to claim. I slept lightly at first, waking at every sound, but slowly, the room stopped feeling haunted and started feeling like mine again. The empty bed was no longer a symbol of abandonment. It was a place I was learning to return to, a place of rest, not fear. Months passed, and I changed in ways I never expected. I stopped treating loneliness like a punishment and started treating it like a chance to rebuild myself. I painted the apartment, hung warm lights, added color, opened the windows, and let the air circulate through my life again. Called old friends. I made new ones. I went out more, laughed more, allowed myself to feel visible again. And one evening, as the sun set and the golden light filled my bedroom, I looked at my bed, my once empty, feared bed, and felt something unexpected. Peace. Not because someone was beside me, not because someone finally chose me, but because I finally chose myself. The bed had not been my prison. My fear had, and I was finally free. People say, loneliness is quiet, but they're wrong. Loneliness has footsteps, a presence, a voice, a shadow that follows you into every room. If you ignore it long enough, it becomes a part of your identity, so strong that your mind starts giving it shape. My empty bed never needed another person. It needed me, my presence, my healing, my acceptance. The moral? Sometimes, the scariest things in our lives are not ghosts or monsters. They are the parts of ourselves we have been avoiding for years. The empty space beside you is not always a sign of abandonment. Sometimes, it is an invitation to fill it with your own worth. Because the truth is simple. If you don't learn to love your own company, your mind will create someone else to keep you from feeling alone. And that someone may not always be kind. I didn't need a man to make my bed feel full. I needed courage. I needed healing. I needed me. Now, when I lie down to sleep, I smile at the space beside me because it no longer haunts me. It reminds me that I survived and that my empty bed is no longer a symbol of sorrow. It is the proof that I finally came home to myself.